recorded. So welcome everyone to the fourth webinar in our transport learning series. The name of today's webinar is From Buses to Bus Systems, Institutional Innovation in India's Public Transport. Today's webinar will be led by Chintan Daftardar, Program Head, Transport WRI India, Deval Mishra, Program Manager, Transport WRI India. The session will start with presentations, after which it will be open for question and answers. But if you have any question and answers, please feel free to use the chat as the presentations are going on. And like I said, the webinar will be recorded. Over to you, Chintan. Thank you. You're on mute, Chintan.
Hello. Thanks, Anandita. Hope the screen is visible to everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. So let's imagine a situation where you can walk to a bus stop safely. You can comfortably wait at the bus stop. Your bus comes on time, and the bus is clean, affordable, and environmental friendly. This is a vision which was seen by PPP-led Sewa, and the case study here we will discuss through that how electric bus policy changed into a national movement, how the policy decisions were taken over time, each decisions. So every Indian city witnesses a common challenge. Where are the urban public buses? The ministry had set a benchmark of 60 buses per lakh population, while our cities above 3 lakh population have an average of only 18 buses per lakh population, far below than our requirement. And only few cities in India are able to be above that average. And if you will see the Latin American, Chinese cities or the benchmark of practices like London or Singapore, they are much beyond this benchmark. And it is because over the time, inadequate investments have come to the public bus services. And because of this inadequate investment, there were high private vehicle ownerships, traffic congestions, traffic delays, higher consumption of fuels, and vehicular emission. Hence, the scheme objective was to increase the share of public transport and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The solution exists in the mobility component itself, urban public buses. And this was realized and stated during the Union Budget 2021, where it announced the funds for urban buses. The stakeholders came together and they started discussing what we are solving for. So during the assessment, it was identified that the cities below 40 lakh populations have an average bus deficit of more than 82%.
Chintan, sorry to break you up there. The slides are not changing.
Okay.
I think you have to put it in presentation mode, Chintan.
It was in a presentation mode.
I think the screen,
please share it.
Yeah, the screen that was shared was different than the slideshow.
Let me know.
Yeah, now it's good.
Yes. So this is a vision which we are looking for. Okay. Let me know if the slide is changing, so I will continue.
Yeah, it's changing now.
Okay, thanks. So the vision what PNB Bus Sewa was looking for was that how we can achieve a safe, comfortable, clean bus environment. and the electric bus policy, how it changed into a national movement. And the every Indian city which witnessed an urban mobility challenge, which was, where are the urban public buses? The Mahua, which set a service level benchmark of 60 buses per lakh population in almost a decade back, today also cities beyond 3 lakh population have an average of 18 buses per lakh population, far below what we want to achieve. Very few cities, Indian cities, are above this average. But if you will see Latin American, Chinese cities, benchmark practices like London or Singapore, they are far beyond this benchmark. And inadequate investments have led to this cause. The inadequate investment led to high private vehicle ownership, traffic congestion, traffic delays, higher consumption of fuels, and higher vehicular emission. Hence, the scheme came with an objective of increasing the share of public transport and reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. And the solution exists in the mobility component, that is urban public buses. It all began in Union Budget 2021, when it was announced that funds are available for urban buses. The stakeholders, while designing the scheme, came together to understand what we are solving for. And it was identified that cities below 40 lakh population have an average bus deficit more than 82%. And hence, it was focused that augmentation of bus services shall be taken for small and medium-sized cities and to inculcate a culture of public transport. And to build a culture of a public transport, it is not just about procuring a bus, but procuring a bus service, delivering those service for supply. It was also identified that the fare box on an average is recovering only 50% of the cost of operations. And the smaller cities don't have adequate budget to operate these buses. So it was important the funding pattern should sustain the operations over the life cycle of the bus. Hence, it was decided to have an OPEX-based funding, which will support almost 35 to 40% cost of operations. Also, giving a chance for cities to build efficiencies into their systems, increase revenue through riderships and fare box revenue, non-fare box revenue. Also, in 2021, when the scheme was in the initial phase, e-buses were considered optional because at that time, e-buses were only 20 to 30% higher than cost of its counterpart. So the costly buses in the smaller cities without adequate investments, they will not function. So choice was with the cities. In 22, when the demand aggregation model under Grand Challenge discovered that e-bus cost of operations can be 23 to 27% lower than its ICE counterparts, a decision was taken that now e-buses have achieved that parity and they should be mandated, also supported by global concerns of energy security, climate change mitigation commitments, and aim to reduce pollution and GHG emissions. In 23, NEBP further established that the procurement of e-bus services under demand aggregations are cost effective. Hence, to enable these efficiencies and procurement capacities with the cities, a decision was further taken for all buses under the scheme shall be done through demand aggregation at central level. But who is going to take this technology risk? The risk of battery performance over time, uncertainty of a battery replacement, and the dependency on OEMs for maintenance, spares, and battery management system. From the past experience, to avoid these dependencies and the risk of technologies, from experience of FAME, NEBP, and Grand Challenge, is what decided that GCC wet lease model is a best suitable in the given current context, where the operator finances, procure, operate, and maintain e-buses, ensuring bus service levels, and city creates infrastructure, plan, monitor, manage e-bus services, and pays to the operator towards its services. But why will an operator take a financial risk for cities? The operators are raising a high debt towards the high capital cost of the e-buses. E-bus operations also require 8 to 10 years for recovery of initial investments. And they need to ensure that there is a cash flow for periodic loan repayments, payments for electricity tariffs, and salary payment for their drivers. That is, the banking system depends on it. The cash trap is discoms depends on their payments, and there is a drivers which are dependent on their livelihood. So to ensure a timely periodic payments to the operator, it was a payment security mechanism framework adopted to enable a bankable contract, also to build trust of the investment companies. More investment will come into the e-buses through PPP mode and reducing the cost and by de-risking the funds. And it was not only about the electric bus service. India also made a strategic decision to build an ecosystem. There was a need of infrastructure for reliable bus operation, a quality and adequacy of power, and secure space for e-bus maintenance and charging. And the decision was finally to support development of depot and power infrastructure as well. The dependency on power infrastructure was high as the grid capacities were to be augmented. 100% support was given for the behind the meter power infrastructure, and to build the depots, 60% power support was provided. Also, electric bus is not just a vehicle, it is a digital platform on wheels. So it was necessary to create an interoperable digital infrastructure and ITS modules, which will enable monitoring and management of buses. There should have been a standardized data collection, storing and sharing practices, a vendor independent affordable ITS solution. Hence, there was a decision to create a national ITMS, which is currently under tendering phase, where a different modules like contract management, automatic vehicle location system, automatic fare collections, incident management system, passenger information systems, and commuter applications are being considered. This is to empower cities to build efficiencies into the ecosystem. Also, commuters were at a core of our decision making throughout the planning of the scheme. For comfort and convenience, 100% AC electric buses were considered. 96% of these buses standard are accessible. Also, there are ongoing consultations on commuter-centric route planning, provisions for bus stop, other wayside amenities, safe access to bus stop, and gender-inclusive bus ecosystem. The scheme supports 10,000 e-buses in operation over 10 years. 169 plus cities were eligible, and $2.4 billion were committed as a scheme support. Today, 10,000 buses are approved for 117 cities. 98% buses are tendered. In 12 cities, 500 plus buses are in operations. And the entire scheme is going to increase the power capacities and depot capacities infrastructure or for more than 100 plus locations. There are few glimpses of how different cities started the bus operations. But we need to understand that transformation was also driven by a basic fundamental, that is a consistent financing framework. For the first time, the cities who have never even operated a diesel or a CNG bus, 30% of participating cities shall operate buses for the first time, and 80% shall be operating electric buses for the first time. A change, a remarkable change to be considered. Also, when the scheme was announced, it was only 7.5 buses per lakh population in these participating cities, which will now double with 15 buses per lakh population with the scheme by next year. The impact of these 10,000 buses will create more than 55,000 jobs, reduce oil imports by 55 billion liters of diesel, and improve air quality by 18 million tons of CO2 equivalent tailpipe emissions. It is going to serve almost 13 million citizens across these cities and creating a direct economic stimulus of almost 7 billion in these cities. Overall, the ecosystem is changing. Before COVID, when there were only 3-4 bus manufacturers, today India has almost 15 bus manufacturers with an installed manufacturing capacity of more than 50,000. Almost 19,000 buses are registered today and 35,000 more are in tendering phase. There is a 140x growth in past 6 years. And in last 4 years, for major electric bus operators, there have been a unique 28 operators in the demand aggregation tender. The entire marketplace is being developed with a commitment of Government of India for 2.7 billion in past 3 years. It has unlocked an investment of almost 14.5 billion. It has happened by solving a puzzle where the electrification required demand aggregation, new approaches for business model, financing from private capital, building capacities of cities, leveraging technology, and delivering a bankable contract through payment security mechanism. Establishing a robust eBus ecosystem is not merely a small change. It requires a holistic approach to lead an eBus transition. Every electric bus on road is a statement, a commitment to change for a cleaner, greener world. Thank you. This was a case study where we discussed the national level, what policies, how it were framed. I will invite Dr. Deval Mishra to talk about at a sub-national level, how institutionalizing is being done for strengthening the bus ecosystem. Deval.
Yeah, thank you, Chintan, and very good evening to all the attendees of this webinar. I will keep everything short and simple, and since I have been embedded in the transport department of Madhya Pradesh for the last 1.5 year, 1.5 years, so I'll be going in from English and Hindi. So I hope it will be fine with you guys. So yeah, Madhya Pradesh, Chintan, can you go to the next slide, please? So we have had a radical change in Madhya Pradesh state towards the public bus transport system. Why was it needed? There are 5-6 things that happened, a chain of events that led to this radicalized thinking process at the administration level, which turned into execution. The first step was the dissolution of MP State Road Transport Corporation. In 2005, the then government of Madhya Pradesh decided that because of the surmounting losses due to daily operations of government buses and some other reasons that I cannot state here on this open public forum, the amount of losses were too big, and the only solution that was remaining to the government was to shut down the corporation's work entirely. Now, as soon as it happened, there were no government, quote unquote, government buses operating on the routes across the state. In absence of these buses, there was a huge gap between supply and demand, which was filled by private bus operators. But since these private bus operators were profit oriented, instead of providing a service, it was a business for them, and it still remains to be so. So they took up only the most profitable routes, and on those routes too, they operated only during peak hours. So this resulted in a lot of underserved and completely unserved areas, and a lot of population which did not have any access to good, reliable, and affordable public transport services. Moreover, due to the lack of oversight over these private bus operators, because the transport department simply did not have the resources, the manpower to oversee or to implement the correct motor vehicle rules and make these operators operate in a way that would stick to the rules on the service level that are defined according to their permits. The operators started to operate in very haphazard manner, and it has recently become very hard to tame them. Basically, some operators became too big and they started bullying the smaller operators. So the whole business became a very politicized and a very muscle heavy, muscle dominant business proposition for anybody else to come in, even think of coming in and setting up their own new business. To tackle this, the Madhya Pradesh government established 16 SPVs, special purpose vehicles, in different cities across the state, which were supposed to provide uh, public bus services, at least intra-city public bus services. But most of these have not been able to cater to the complete demand, and most of them have shifted towards intercity operations instead of intra-city bus operations. And they all come under urban administration department, so their mandate is only intra-city buses. So there is still a huge gap. There was still a huge gap for intercity travelers and long distance journeys. So yeah, to overcome this, the government of Madhya Pradesh envisaged a complete overhaul of public bus transport ecosystem in the state, which would span intracity, intercity, and interstate bus transport. Now, this was imagined to be a three-tier structure. Tier one would be a state level holding company that would oversee all the operations, policy decisions, and governmental oversight across the state. Then at tier two would be 7 regional subsidiary companies situated in the divisional headquarters of 7 divisions: Bhopal, Indore, Ujjain, Jabalpur, Gwalior, Sagar, and Rewa. And the third level would not be a regulatory level, but it would be an advisory level, where district passenger transport committees would be set up uh, with the politicians and the public representatives acting as advisors to tier one and tier two companies on what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And the major highlight of this tier one and tier two structure is the capacity building. So before last year, if I can be really frank, there was one person, a planner at the state level, who used to oversee the whole 16 SPVs. And these 16 SPVs had 2 to 3 employees at most, which were not transport planners or transport engineers. They were mostly BCom graduates or people who had learned things on the job. So they had no technical expertise. Now, at tier 1 and tier 2 level, we have set up the organization structure, keeping in mind that we'll pull in professionals from ITMS, that is Integrated Transit Management System. We'll have planners, we'll have data analysts, we'll have IT professionals, we'll have specific legal experts, we'll have marketing people, we'll have people from law enforcement for implementing or for what do you call it, enforcement of rules. And one of the biggest overhauls, as compared to as opposed to that of the other SRTO, State Road Transport Corporations, was that we will do all the operations on PPP, public-private partnership. So there are 3 pillars basically. One is private bus operations. Second is infrastructure, and third is information technology. So all three pillars will be driven by public-private partnerships, where the first one, bus operations will be taken care of by private operators who we will onboard with us through contracts. They'll have our branding guidelines, they'll follow our service level agreements, and they'll pay us a small fee in order to be able to associate with them, carry our brand, and get priority access to public infrastructure and to the permit system and our uh, 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 administrative and judicial support. Second, the infrastructure will be developed on PPP basis throughout the state. It will include bus terminals, bus stands, bus stop, wayside amenities, and the lot. The third would be the integrated transport management system. That is supposed to be a modular system. We'll talk about it later. And it is supposed to be the operating backbone of the whole system, which will help the government to effectively control everything and monitor all the aspects of this project. The government's role here will be as a regulator and not operator, which other SRTUs tend to do, although they are now moving in the same direction of going to PPP mode operations, but they are still stuck somewhere between 5, 10, 15% of their complete operations. They are still burdened with their own private operations. Also, we are going to prioritize clean fuel buses over our normal ICE buses. And thank you. And we will give priority permits to people or private operators who will bring in electric buses or CNG buses, or in future hydrogen buses.
Deval, 1 minute. We have I think the slides are not moving.
Yeah, because we are not going there. I'm still
Still on the same screen.
Okay. Fine.
Right. Yeah. So we'll give priority to operators who will bring in more clean fuel buses. Chintan, can we go to the next slide, please? Now, the major part that I talked about, the largest stakeholder for us, apart from the commuters, will be the private bus operators. So we will create a transparent, competitive, and structured marketplace for private bus operators, which is lacking currently in Madhya Pradesh because it is dominated by private bus operators who have more number of buses, who have more muscle power, more political connections. We are trying to build a marketplace where small operators who own less than 5 buses can come to us, get into contract with us and run operations of their buses without fear of being bullied or without fear of getting their permit timings encroached by the larger operators. This will be done through open competitive biddings online. All the operators will be onboarded through net cost contracts where the bus ownership will be there, the operations will be there, basically fare collection and drivers will be there, and the bus maintenance will be there, their responsibility. They will follow our SLAs and their performance will be linked with these SLAs, and there will be ITMS monitoring. We'll have 6 cameras, out of which 2 will be passenger counting, 1 would be मैं काम कर रहा हूँ मैं, है ना? So I'm sorry for that. So where was I? Yeah, one would be for monitoring the behavior of the driver, whether the driver is talking on phone or smoking a cigarette or is intoxicated or not, or is sleepy. That will also be monitored, and we'll also monitor the behavior of passengers and whether or not the conductor is giving out tickets as they're supposed to be. Now, what will the operator gain by coming with us? First, we'll give them priority access to bus depots. We'll build depots where they can park their buses at night. They can maintain their buses, clean their buses, and store some spare parts. We'll have specific bus stands where demand can be pulled in and they won't have to stop everywhere to get passengers. We'll have stops We'll provide them digital platform for taking bookings for their operations. We'll have priority route permits, which is a very murky space right now in Madhya Pradesh. We'll have digital fare collection, which will try to eliminate leakages. As I said, administrative and police support will be there, and we'll try to increase non-fare box revenue through onboarding. For example, one big part would be onboarding a third-party cargo agency, which will provide first and last step picking up and drop off of cargo. That will be a huge boost of revenue for them. Otherwise, also we'll pull in advertising, which generally does not come for intercity travel or interstate travel. We'll bring that. So we'll try to give them a stability and in revenue, which will be basically their chance to increase their business and make it a generational business. To the next slide, please. Now the second, the backbone ITMS platform, where it is envisaged to be a modular framework where the hardware will be procured by the bus operators from a list of empaneled agencies whose costs will be regulated. The software components will be provided by one company. There would be another software provided by the either the fare collection agency, and one would be by the cargo agency. Then the data will be hosted at the government level. So it will be such a system where if we are unhappy with any part of that system, for example, if we don't like one specific part of the hardware, we can remove it and bring in a new player, and it won't hamper the whole system. All these systems will talk to each other through common communication protocols, which will be defined by MPYPL, which is the state level holding company. So we are, and currently this system will break the monolithic structure that exists in the Indian landscape throughout the country. So we are trying to break that, and we'll also provide GTFS static and real-time data of anonymized data from the bus operations and ticketing, and we'll sell it to either startups or software companies or academic institutes. So that will also generate a secondary revenue source for MPYPL and these buses. To the next slide, please. Now, the whole planning of the routes has been done through extensive surveys at ground level, and we have identified that we need at least 10,000, almost 10,700 buses or buses that we are planning to put out over 3,500 routes in the 7 regional zones of Madhya Pradesh. And in the first phase of our implementation, we'll also run interstate operations between Madhya Pradesh and 6 other states, that is Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, UP, Chhattisgarh, and Haryana, with which states we have reciprocal agreements. So that is going to be there. Currently, where we sit at is the state level holding company, the MPYPIL, Madhya Pradesh Yatri Parivahan and Infrastructure Limited, has been formed at the state level. We have established 7 regional companies. We are in process of taking them under this company. The regulatory process and registrar of companies process is going on. The district passenger transport committees have been set up in all districts. We are notifying most of the routes that we have identified through our demand surveys and extensive stakeholder interviews with passengers, with bus operators. We have had around, I would say, more than 150 interviews with private bus operators and more than 10,000 interviews with passengers, using which we have devised these routes. So we are looking to implement those very soon. And for the PM eBus Sewa, the 972 PM eBus Sewa have been allocated to MP, of which 10 have been operationalized, and by 28th of this month, 14 more will be operationalized. And in governance side, we have increased the cargo hauling limit of the buses. Earlier, it was stuck to the number of seats that are empty in the bus. Now we have made it to 10% of the whole gross vehicle weight of the bus. So essentially, the bus operator can haul in more cargo and earn more revenue. We have reduced tax on suburban routes. It was earlier 150 rupees per seat per month. Now we have reduced it only to 50 rupees per seat per month. And we are also reducing tax on buses which were leased. So essentially now anyone who will be operating buses by contracting with MPYPL, they will have to pay less tax. So the whole vision of our project was to create a replicable blueprint for institutionally sound, financially sustainable public bus transport system across Indian states. So this kind of framework does not exist anywhere in India right now. If we are able to pull this off, this will essentially be first of its kind. And if we are even able to achieve 50% of what we are aiming to do, it will be an example for the whole of the country, while taking in these five reforms: institutional reform, private partnership, universal access, sustainability, and information technology. With that, I'll close my presentation here, and I think we'll go for question and answers next.
Thank you, Deval. We do have a few questions in the Q&A. I would ask you and Chintan to address them one by one.
All right. So the first question that I'm seeing is from Mihir Sriram. How is the program helping build capacity for cities as they transition? Mihir, can you please tell me, was this for PM eBus Sewa or was this for the MP state?
He will not be able to unmute himself.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
it
fine.
was for the PM.
I
We'll answer for
consider
both.
based on the time, I consider it is for the PME bus Seva. So, Mir, important pillar, the capacity building itself. So, 2 or 3 folds it can be. First thing is cities, 80% cities who are operating electric bus for the first time. Till now, the work of public transport authority was to just build a depot and start bus operations and so on and so forth. They had never estimated about creating that power infrastructure at that scale, and that assessment they were not aware of. So while they will be able to ask DISCOM to provide the connection, who is going to plan that, how much connection is required, how much mega watt supplies, MVA supply is required. So ministry has established an PMU consisting of IoT, CPWD, Ministry of Power, REC, who are guiding them in at least each city is going to develop one depot, maybe few cities with couple of more. But now each city, they're creating capacities, how to build, how to plan a depot, how to plan for a infrastructure. So each time, each city had a doubt. There were a lot of consultations being done. They were also invited to discuss the design. They were guided with the design. They were guided with the estimates. They were guided with the procurement process. So all those things were supported through ministry, and from the side of contracting of buses. So when you are procuring a bus, diesel bus or CNG bus, the way you procure, the contract conditions, the performance standards, everything are different for electric buses. When the aggregated model came, CSL took that initiative for ministry, and there were a lot of consultations happened on what are these clauses, how they are going to manage. And I don't have a count exactly, but the ministry also did various stakeholder consultation and capacity building exercises for cities who are signing contracts or in a phase of implementing those contracts. And then through these various state level guidance, they have one by one told them how the contract functions, how the route planning has to be done, how the fare has to be developed, how you can strengthen your institute. So this has been a process throughout the last 3 years, from how the contracts will function, how the infrastructure will be built. So implementation, the translation has to come on ground. The policy has to be translated on the. So all efforts have been taken by ministry for so. I hope
All
that
right.
answers.
And how is the program helping build capacity for cities as they transition? Now, from MPYPL side, at the institutional level, we are looking to hire subject matter experts, whether it be information technology planners and ITMS experts, legal experts, operational experts. So we'll be hiring people. I mean, it is not going to be a typical government structure. Mostly we'll have people from the outside who have real world experience. We'll hire people from other state road transport corporations, from private agencies. And then we'll have some people who will join us at the lowest of the levels as deputy managers or managers directly from gate. And they will be trained by these people who have 10, 12, 15 years of experience in their respective fields. And as these deputy managers and managers grow into the role of additional general manager, they'll absorb all that institutional knowledge and technical capabilities, and they'll grow into the new GMs, AGMs, CGMs, and then they'll train the assistant managers and the managers. So it is going to be a cyclical process, starting with the hiring of the best from the get-go. So that is one of the parts where we are allocating the highest amount of our budget in hiring the best people. So that is something that that is how we are going to build capacity for cities, not only at the state level, at the city level as well. Okay. Now the next question, which implementation challenge has been the most common across cities? Depot readiness, utility coordination, or institutional capacity? And how are cities addressing it? Chintan, this is for you.
So for implementation challenges, mostly if you will see, because there are various entities, especially like you yourself have said, the utility coordination, two different PSUs, the bus and the discom, they have to work together. Your bus contract is happening separately, your infrastructure and your power contracts are happening and being implemented separately. Eventually, they have to come at a common timeline they have to build. It cannot be that one of them is incomplete or one of them, buses are coming early, infrastructure is not ready, that is also a problem. Or if infrastructure is ready, buses are not coming, that is also a problem. So that coordination between different entities, different contracts required a lot of guidance wherever the cities require that technical assistance was being provided. Whether it is the decision even has to be taken, but if they are not aware about how those technical things will impact. So that's why that entire PMU of those different entities were established to guide them. There are a couple of questions which are also on institutional capacity building of scheme enforcement and all on road. So other thing what we also found was, even if the city may have an experience of operating a bus, but they may not have an experience of PPP contracts. If they have an experience of PPP contracts, in that, what about GCC contracts? In also, if also they have an experience of a GCC contract, they know they have to plan the routes or timetable. But when you are planning an electric bus schedule, how your opportunity charging have to be inbuilt into the scheduling strategy, how your infrastructure can be optimized. So all those things are when things are going into the operation phase. So when these capacity building programs were done, these were usually 2 days program where different topics were being considered. And it is planned that if over the time, if more capacity buildings are required, the technical assistance or guidance shall be provided based on what is a specific requirement of the cities. If one of the questions which talks about the indicators other than beyond the fleet deployment, obviously, as I stated in the presentation itself, it is not just about procuring the bus, it is about procuring the service. The core objective is to improve the mode share of public transport, improve the bus availability, and reduce the emissions. So during the operations, the measurement also has to be, was ridership increased for the city? Were buses available? That is the adequate supply. They were, fleet utilization was there or not. You have to map if the reliability was there or not. You have to map if they are able to optimize or plan their services in a better way, because eventually which will be reflected in the difference between the planned and the schedules operated. So all those things are parallelly needs to be tracked. What is being looked also for is that certain parameters or a format is under discussion, where when the periodic assistance, quarterly assistance will be provided to city, those things will be mapped, tracked, advices will be provided. You also have to see that how much accessibility you have improved, not in just number of cities, but also in terms of how much people are into the catchment area. So the guidance on planning and improving efficiencies of the services are also can be mapped and monitored. So one of the question is also about, since inception, 3 years have passed and very few buses on roads are there. Obviously, there had been challenges for stating so as when the scheme comes, it is obviously not that on the same day we are expecting we will start tendering the buses. First thing is, there have been different stages of implementation. Cities have to participate in the scheme. They have to show, it was a challenge-based approach where cities have to provide a certain format information. They had to accept for payment security mechanism, which was mandatory. They had to accept for the resource gap, if any, whether it is human resource, whether it is financial resource. Now, these are the financial decision which has to be taken at a state level, state decision. So where the state finance ministry does all the analysis and then they accept for these resources. Then, which was part of a challenge because it has to sustain operations over 12 years. Central ministry is giving only 35 to 40% cost of the buses. 50, you are based on your fare policies, cities will be able to achieve 50 or plus minus percentage to fare box or non-fare box. What if there is a gap? Okay, so hence the payment security mechanism and resource gap were mandatory. which obviously took time. Other thing was the tenders when they are being executed. Okay, uh, the tender has a different stage of bidding process. Even after the bidding is completed, once the consortium who has bid for it, okay, they have to, they before signing the contract, there are some processes they have to complete, like establishing that SPV, creating the escrow account, taking that loan guarantees and all, and then the contract is signed. And then over the next 11 years, there is a deployment of a fleet. At the same time, they have to create the power and civil infrastructure, which has seen from past experiences, even from FAME, that if you are developing a power infrastructure which is 5-6 megawatt and above, it may even take almost 12 months to implement it. So there are a lot of things to be done before deployment. So we have to create an ecosystem before deployment of these buses. So all these are into processes now. Since February, buses have started coming. Last 4 months, 12 cities have started it, and more are ready with the infrastructure. So now there will be a speed in the deployment of buses, because almost all the paperwork or the infrastructure works are on the final stages.
All right. There are a few questions for MPYPL. Is MPYPL open for collaboration with individuals and companies, and how should we contact the authority to showcase how we can contribute to this vision? Okay, for this, you can write an email to admin.mpypil@mp.gov.in. I am writing down the email address. You can write an email here and we can set up a meeting. Sudhirendra Bajpai asks, wonderful program. Does this address intracity demand? Was not clear. I'm guessing this was for my part of the presentation. Yes, it does cater to intracity demand. We are essentially increasing the length of the routes, and we are not limiting the route lengths to within municipal limits. We are actually taking those buses out to the suburban areas up to 30 kilometers outside of the municipal limits. It varies from city to city, but yeah, up to 30 kilometers. So that way, we are also increasing the viability of operations for our net cost contract operators. For Madhya Pradesh, what aspects of Madhya Pradesh model do you think can be replicated most easily by others? I would guess NCC contracts, basically onboarding operators, private bus operators onto your system. That is one of the easiest steps. Infrastructure is a little tough to do, but yeah, that can be done. And technology wise, it is one of the easiest. You bring in good people, but it has to be in a modular sense. Right now, it is a very monolithic structure which has failed more than once across India. So if they can adopt a modular approach, a fragmented, not exactly fragmented, but yeah, you get the best people to do what they do best. For example, one company does fare collection best, so you bring those in. One company does tracking best, so you bring those in and you join them onto a single platform. So that can be done. Satyam asked, sir, while doing a transportation survey in Bhopal last year, I was amazed to see the daily ridership of women is very less for public buses. Are we taking some initiatives to make public transportation more inclusive? Yes, actually, we are looking to have, like, for example, in Indore, we have separate section of the buses for female riders and male riders. So the front of the bus is reserved for female passengers. The rear of the bus is reserved for male passengers. and there's a clear demarcation line between that. So that will be taken over, and we will also in future are looking to introduce some discount for female passengers and passes especially for female passengers, so that to encourage them to come to the buses. We'll also have female ticket issuers and female drivers, and we are looking at possibility of having all female buses, like only females are allowed to ride on those specific buses, which has been done in Indore to in the BRTS corridor, which was there. There out of 28, there were 2 buses which are only for females. So hopefully we'll implement that also. Mihir Sriram again said, thank you both for the great presentations and for answering my questions. You're welcome, Mihir. Thank you for the compliment. I was also curious to know if both the national and state level programs are supporting first and last mile connectivity. For the state level program, right now we are focusing on first providing bus services. In future, we are going to become aggregators for last mile connectivity providers, IPTs, be it e-rickshaws, auto rickshaws, cabs. We'll become like an aggregator. The booking platform and the ride tracking platform will also become a ride hailing platform. So first and last mile connectivity will be catered by MPYPL in the future. For national level, Chintan, can you answer?
So, for this scheme has specific to the bus ecosystem, bus services. Now, selecting a route, developing the infrastructure, priority locations, areas to be served, and access infrastructure to be developed. A lot of them are part of the state decisions, while we are supporting the capacity building. These programs also discuss about need for multimodal, plan for multimodal. There are parallel schemes in the ministries, like earlier it was Smart City, now it is Amrut 2.0, and there are a couple of more programs which are providing assistance for cities for the, say, access to the bus stops also, bus services also, or integrated facilities also. So that is to be technologically NCMC card, and those are part of the ecosystem which is being developed through ITMS. Once the system is established, so one of the question is also on what's next after this stage. So say a city, so small city also, if you take, which is 5 lakh population, based on your service level benchmark, it will also require almost 250 to 300 buses. So now these cities are given 50 to 100 buses, means there are still scope. This is a first step where they are inculcating the culture of transport. First, they have to bring people to the transport, build that trust. This services can be given. As these cities also have inadequate budgets to operate without ensuring that there are ridership, so they cannot do all directly from 7.5 bus per lakh population. They cannot directly jump to the service level 1. So this will have to be stage approach. Now they have doubled it to 15 buses per lakh population. They will have to now scale it up to 30 or 40 and forth, therefore ahead. But while they will scale up from this stage, they will also have to develop the policy reforms. They will have to develop the urban transport fund. They will have to develop the periodic revision fare policies. They will have to develop the parking policies, because it is not only about delivering a supply and pulling the passengers, but it is also pull and push factors, the parking policy, demand management, all those things will also work. They will have to these cities most of the cities may not have the long-term transport vision, how city vision is, city mobility plan is. They will have to develop it in a holistic way. And those will be a way forward. So in the next stage, so India requires still 1 lakh more urban buses. These are just 10,000, the first step. And there is an intent that the support shall be given in a phase wise over upcoming years, a decade ahead to go. How everyone in the ecosystem contributes and try to reach those service levels where commuters receive those desirable services.
All right, over to you.
I think we have answered majority of the questions, and in the interest of time, if anybody has further questions, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to answer them. We will also be sending out the recording of this webinar in a couple of days. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chintan. Thank you, Deval.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.